giving you the real from A to Z surrounding the Dallas Cowboys. News, updates, rumors, transactions, takes, and more. So strap up, Cowboys Nation, and start your day off with A to Z Sports. Live with Will Steele.
3, 2, 1.
Here we go!
Good morning, good people. Welcome to A to Z Sports Live. We are streaming live on YouTube. And of course, I am your host, Will Skywalker. Still, boom! You see it down there, don't you? It is time to take a look at this Bucs matchup. Their offense comes in hot. The Cowboys defense figuring some things out. It's the heavyweight matchup of Sunday night. Plus, in the roundup, we will take a look at some more injury updates for the Cowboys. Some good, some bad, usually how it goes in Dallas. And we'll talk a little bit why this is a huge opportunity for Mike Zimmer to add to his 2024 resume as we go along. But what's good with your Bomb Squad? How are we doing this morning?
Bomb Squad!
It is that time. Y'all know how we do. We take a look at the next opponent, and, you know, shouts out to the Cowboys for giving me more of a reason to do this with enthusiasm, right? Because at one point in time at 3-7, it was like, it doesn't really matter. You could argue it doesn't matter now. However, I do think some circumstances have changed in regards to the staff, Zimmer, some of these players. It is these next 3 games, I think, are huge for those particular people, especially Zim, especially some of these players that are up for contracts and whatnot. And starting off with what I think is the biggest challenge in a long time for the Cowboys defense, or the toughest, let me say that, because they've went up against some high-ranking offenses in regards to passing and scoring, and some tough run teams, some tough pass. But this one right here, I think, is the best offense you will have seen since the Detroit Lions game, from scheme, play caller, players, execution, production. It's going to be a fun matchup to watch, because on the flip side, you could argue the Bucs are going up against this Cowboys defense who was figuring things out. Going to be a good one. Let's get to the roundup first before we do all of that. I'm doing well. Miss Jackie, thank you guys for coming through as you guys usually do. Bomb Squad, y'all the best. Let's get to this roundup, though.
It's time! It's time! It's time! It's time!
Time.
It's time! It is time for...
It's time for the morning roundup. Round 'em up, boys.
Let me talk to you.
Did I see we had a birthday in the building?
What?
I said, did I see we had a birthday in the building?
What?
Shouts out to Stone Cold G. Happy birthday, my guy.
What?
Sorry, I don't got the Stone Cold music for you. I think I took it out of my soundboard. Yeah, I did. But it's all good.
What?
Let's get to it. So, DeMarvion Overshown dropped a video yesterday. Some reports came out from Nick Harris and Jordan Schultz. Shouts out to both of those gentlemen. Schultz said, per his sources, standout linebacker DeMarvion Overshown underwent successful knee surgery, and there's hope he could return by mid to late next season, a far more optimistic timeline than initially expected after the diagnosis. So, kind of good news, right? Although I thought most of the prognosis coming out of hearing he tore all the L's, right? All the MCL, PCL, ACLs, was that, I mean, it wasn't nerve damage, so technically he could return mid to late season. But hearing that it's more optimistic than initially thought, and what initially thought, right? Initially, before we heard what he tore, was, hey, man, this could be something where he misses the entire 2025 year. Now, there is also the caveat of don't rush him back, right? Like, you don't want to force him back out there and he's not who he was, et cetera, et cetera. But I don't know what it is about Demo, man. I told you guys there's an aura. There's something different about this kid. I just think he's going to overcome it. Overshown will overcome. Call it blind optimism, maybe, but it's just something about this kid. If it's not 25, I think 26, he will be playing football for a little bit here, man, for quite some time. I just hope it's with the Cowboys, and I hope it's at a high level. Now, Nick Harris did say something that had me go, huh? He ended up having work done on both knees and said he will start his rehab today. So when I hear that, I asked Nick Harris, I said, is this something where they took something from the good knee, and I use good in quotations because the other knee is the knee he tore his ACL, right? And added it to the bad knee because he did that last year. Now, the injury that happened this year wasn't some non-contact, brittle injury. Somebody rolled up over his knee and tore all his ligaments. But I'm no doctor. I hate having to hear, hey man, we had to do surgery on both the knees because maybe we needed to borrow from the other. We had to rob Peter to pay Paul. I don't know. We'll get more details on that probably. But nonetheless, successful surgery, possible positive timeline. Wish DeMarvion Overshown a healthy, safe, speedy recovery where he could be back sometime next year or future. Just want to see him come back. Not so great news for DeMarcus Lawrence. Per Brian Broaddus, he said, quote, they tried their best to get him back. There was a couple times where I was passing by the field watching him and I felt like, hey man, he's working hard with Britt Brown. But they just couldn't get that foot where it needed to be, and it wasn't worth the risk for them going forward. Thus, DeMarcus Lawrence going to be shut down. We kind of talked a little bit about this the other day, where could this have been DeMarcus Lawrence's last days with the Dallas Cowboys this season? Because he's an unrestricted free agent next year, or will be. They're not going to pick up the void year options. And he'll count against the cap for the void years, what have you. But you do wonder, will they look to try to get a small deal? But it sounds like D-Law said, I got more in the tank. I'm not retiring anytime soon. And that begs the question, well, if that's the case, are you going to be looking for the monies? And if he's looking for the monies, the Cowboys, I don't think will be, especially since they drafted his replacement in Marshawn Kneeland, and they've had some success without him. And if they return Mike Zimmer, it's not like he's a Mike Zimmer guy. Granted, D-Law is one of those coach-proof type guys. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with DeMarcus Lawrence moving forward. I do wish him the best, whether it's here or elsewhere. But you hate to see that it could possibly end this way. And again, we talked about this the other day. It's Liz Frank, man. When it comes to that Liz Frank, when it comes to the foot and his DeMarcus Lawrence, I'm never that optimistic because he's had foot injuries his entire career, and you just never want to play around with the foot. And that's probably why, as Broaddus said, they just said it wasn't worth the risk. You got, 3 games left. Again, like I said, if he wasn't going to practice this week, if he practices next week, that doesn't mean he's playing. They got to get him going. And then now it's the last game of the year. Just not worth it. Get healthy, hit the open market, and see if he can continue his career. As for the Cowboys practice report, I'll go down a couple notable DNPs and returns. TJ Bass was out Wednesday with a thigh. Mozzie Smith he was out with a back injury, and Chuma Edoga was out with that ankle that he suffered against the Panthers. So we'll follow all 3 of these guys over the next few days. TJ Bass, you don't want to see him go down. The Cowboys have needed all the depth this year on the offensive line, and usually under Mike McCarthy, they've needed the depth. So hopefully Bass is fine with no Austin Richards, no Nate Thomas. We're talking about Dakota Shepley, who came in and, he's a practice squad guy for majority of the last few years. Mozzie Smith, who's, had some good games, stacked some good games, put on some good film, is playing better than he played last year, right? Growing, developing. He's out with the back. We'll see where that is. And then Chuma, the ankle, where we saw Tyler Guyton come in. And I said this to you guys the other day. Tyler Guyton, man, when he got in there, I thought Tyler Guyton played pretty damn well. And I don't understand what's going on with that situation. According to my guy Pat, he's not healthy, but he's healthy enough to be out there as a backup. Just play him. He needs the reps, man. Just play him. But from a pass blocking standpoint, Tyler Guyton was really good in that game. All three of those touchdown passes, he pretty much locked down that left side. But we'll see moving forward against some better pass rushers. But promising game. We'll see what happens this week if he has to start. Y.A. Thomas returned to practice on a limited basis, and Cooper Beebe returned on a full-time basis. So we'll likely see Beebe back at center with, almost said Bass. Beebe back at center with Hoffman at right guard. There's been so many lineup changes this year. It's been nuts. So we'll get those two guys back into the lineup and we'll see what happens. But today we're going to talk about the Cowboys defense. And they'll be without, obviously, DeMarvion Overshown. They'll be without DeMarcus Lawrence. Going up against, like I said, I'd say one of the better offenses. I mean, this is one of the best offenses in the league right now. But I think one of the toughest offenses you will have faced. When was the Lions game? Week 6? Since week 6. And I know you're looking at this thumbnail and probably saying, well, Scott, why you got Tampa 2 up here with an offensive player? The Bucs have made Tampa 2 a very famous defense, right? Going back to their Super Bowl year in 2002, was it? Yes, that's true. But it's a little play on words because I think when I say Tampa 2, I'm talking about the Bucs offense. I think this offense is one of the best multifaceted offenses you'll have seen, right? They are a dual threat offense. This isn't a team you're going up against that can't run the ball or doesn't want to run the ball. This isn't a team that can't pass block or run block. This isn't a team that is a one-dimensional offense, right? We talk about that a lot with the Cowboys. This is a team that is equally prolific in the run game and the pass game, which makes them really tough to deal with for 4 quarters. So let's break it down.
Break it down.
The Bucs offensive coordinator, as you guys know, if you don't know by now, is Liam Cohen. If you don't know, now you know. He is my pet cat offensive coordinator this season. I've been following him a lot this year, just randomly heading over there, taking a look at some of their schemes throughout the season. And now that I've gotten a chance to study him even more frequently because the Cowboys are going up against him, I'm even more impressed. He's got this offense humming right now, and really all season. And I'm not over-exaggerating when I say one of the best dual threat offenses in the league. They're 4th overall in scoring, right? 3rd in yards per game, 4th in pass yards per game, 4th in rush yards per game. They have the 3rd most touchdown passes, the 9th most rushing touchdowns, 3rd overall in third down percentage, and they have the 6th best red zone offense. Safe to say they can do a lot of things, Cowboys Nation. And that's why I think that unit going up against this Cowboys defense, who's starting to figure some things out, is going to be a really fun matchup. Just a really, really fun matchup. And when we talk about Liam Cohen, I have to bring in Baker Mayfield because I think those two guys together obviously he's playing better than he did last year under Dave Canales, who was a pretty solid offense coordinator for them. But they found this comfort zone where they're getting everybody involved. They have 5 different wide receivers who have 4 or more touchdowns, including the rookie Jalen McMillan, who caught a perfectly called rub route last week for a wide open touchdown. And if you look at Liam Cohen's play calling and how he's dialing it up throughout the season, this has happened frequently Like you'll see a guy just wide open based off of how he set it up or the timing of when he called it. And I want to take you inside the film room real quick to show you this touchdown because I just thought it was just perfectly timed. And he also did something that he does a lot that mirrors what a couple of these other McVay guys do a lot as well. And that's kind of that fake motion just to get you to show what's happening. And I'll probably mention this again later on, but you remember when we played the Falcons and I said often Zach Robinson would show a fake motion, or when those guys motion, it was with purpose. They do the same thing here in Tampa, except for when we do ID motion, it's very lazy. I often talk about that. When they do ID motion, it's really to identify what's happening. You're going to see that here at the top of the screen, I believe, or not the top of the screen with the running back. So take a look at this running back and then take a look at the safeties and basically what what Baker Mayfield is doing here is trying to identify which safety or what this defense is going to be in. So that's the fake motion, right? And if you notice, this safety dropped down to essentially take on one of these guys, showing, hey, this is probably going to be man. It looks like man already. I got too high back here, but it's probably going to be man. So then, nope. So now I'm backing back out, right? Backing back out. And now this safety has this wide receiver. So we're man across the board. We know we're man across the board, and we got the perfect play dialed up. And it's going to be this pick route right here. Mike Evans is just going to get upfield and running over. And I can't remember who this wide receiver is. He's essentially going to run a pick on Jalen McMillan's guy. And Jalen McMillan is going to run kind of this wheel and get wide open. And because they're not using Mike Evans as the guy running the loop, this safety is paying attention to Mike. So he's going to shade inside just enough, which is going to create this wide open space for Jalen McMillan. So we'll let the play run. Going to snap it. Going to get our guy Mike Evans on the over. So the safety has to respect that. And we'll get this perfectly. Look how perfect this pick route is. It doesn't look illegal. It looks like I'm actually trying to run inside and I'm getting held right here by the safety. And instead of this corner playing over top, he tries to bite underneath. And Jalen McMillan is, I mean, this is probably the easiest touchdown you'll see in the NFL all year. So great design, great play call by Liam Cohen. And if you go watch how they set this thing up, again, I said this before when it came to Liam Cohen, one of the best when it comes to first 15s. I'm big on the first. I want to know, how are you setting up this game? Well, and then if I'm a defensive coordinator, I have to guard against that too. Like, hey, don't fall for the cheese. Liam Cohen is a guy. Ben Johnson is a guy. They will lull you to sleep early and set you up for something like this. And when I say early, it could be early in the down or series. It could be early in the quarter. It could be early in the game to set you up. And this was a situation where they were set up early in the series and then bow, get a big hit, wide open play for Jalen McMillan, a rookie. I love Jalen McMillan, by the way, coming out, but a rookie who has 4 touchdown passes, receiving touchdown catches, I should say, on the season, one of 5 guys. So they're spreading the wealth out here. And I think a lot of that has to do with Liam Cohen, but a lot of respect though to Baker Mayfield. I got to give a lot of respect to Baker. I think he is so comfortable in this scheme. He's so comfortable the last few years in his skin. Let me just say that. And he could have easily shut down right after looking like a bust, but that is not the case. He plays with that gunslinger mentality. And this scheme, I think, is suited perfectly for his aggressive skill set. I do. Now, because he's aggressive, there's going to be opportunities to take the ball away from Baker Mayfield. He does have 14 picks, I believe, this year, roughly somewhere around there. And he tries to fit that ball in tight windows a lot. And it works a lot too. Don't get me wrong. I mean, he has the arm strength to do it. But when he is off, you have to make him pay. And the Chargers did that in this game, but it wasn't enough. He had 4 touchdowns to 1 interception. You'll take that all day. But he is second in the NFL in turnover-worthy plays, so take advantage of it, right? You're going to hopefully try to at least Get them in a situation where, hey, it's third and manageable or third and long. Now we can get into our defense, and we'll talk about that here a little bit later, that we like to run, and let's get Baker Mayfield off his spot, or let's get Baker Mayfield having to throw into these tight windows. And if you put a bow on his game this year, very sneaky runner. Very, very sneaky runner. He can manipulate the pocket. He can move. He can tuck the ball and get a lot of big gains on the ground with his legs. So while he's not an RPO or read option, I should say, quarterback, I do wonder if Zim is going to have these guys muddle rush a bit, or if he's just going to unleash them and let them go, because he'll take off. And he's gotten some big first downs with his legs, and he's not a sliding quarterback. Now, he'll slide if it's there, but he's a quarterback that'll stick his head down, try to run you over, and he's done it a few times. So it'll be a fun cat and mouse game between Cohen, Baker, and Mike Zimmer when it comes to the pass. But it'll only be fun if they don't stop the other thing, which we'll get to in a second. But I want to talk to y'all a little bit about Baker and Liam, and what you guys have noticed if you've watched this Bucs offense over the course of the season. Silence the cannons. Well, if they bring in cannons to AT&T Stadium, my brother, we in trouble. What's up with you, Professor O? What's up with you? Did he come from the LaFleur-led team? He came from not LaFleur, but the same tree. He came from McVay. He coached, I think, 4 or 5 seasons. They weren't staggered on top of each other. They were on and off under McVay as a pass game coordinator, receivers coach, and eventually offensive coordinator by name. And now he's getting his own shot to be OC. So he comes from that tree, but not under LaFleur himself. But remember, the McVay, the Shannon, it's Big Shanny, right? Mike, and then there's Kyle, who has his own tree, and then McVay has started his tree as well. So he comes from that family, and that's the you know that tree is. I'm looking for anybody that has had success in that tree. I'd love to bring them in. Doesn't necessarily have to be as a head coach, although I think Liam Cohen is garnering head coach opportunities. He will get some of that in the offseason. It could be as offensive coordinator. Toxic said, I just want a leaf from that tree. I feel you. I feel you 100%. So none of this throwing, stopping the pass will matter if you don't stop the run. The Buccaneers, and this is why I have it, like I said, as Tampa 2. They are equally as good on the ground as they are in the air. And that's why I say this is the toughest defensive matchup since Detroit, because Detroit was equally prolific throwing as they were running. And you can say, well, Scott, what about the Eagles? I know Jalen Hurts had a good game-ish against you after the first half. But I personally think, Eagle fans, you can get mad at me if you want, Baker Mayfield's a better thrower of the football, and he's having a better season throwing the football. And honestly, you could say the Eagles have better weapons, right? Now, Chris Godwin is out. Mike Evans is still there, but what Baker and Cohen are doing with Mike Evans and other quality players, but not a top tight end and 2 top receivers, that's not happening over there. And a backfield that everybody is getting involved in with the rookie running the rock, and Bucky Irvin, who is having a fantastic season as a rookie. He's a stud. It just is what it is, man. Coming out, there was some question marks about, hey, is he explosive enough? Is he fast enough? 40 yards and all that stuff. He's shutting all that down, man. This dude is an absolute stud. He's one of the best players after contact. In fact, he leads the NFL in yards after contact. And one of his best traits coming out was that contact violence, in my opinion. Right? Like when I say smaller guy, I mean in stature, you wouldn't think, right? But no, Bucky Irvin has been tough to get down. And if you don't get him down, he will pop off a big play. He has a 30-yard rush in 6 games this season, at least a 30-yard rush in 6 games. We don't have a single 30-yard rush on the season. He's done it in 6 different games. So again, you're looking at a run game that is perfectly played off of his pass game, and I have to give that credit to Liam Cohen. And something I have said on Twitter, when you go and watch him and you look at the film, when I say him, I mean Cohen, I came away saying, oh, all right, I had a bunch of respect, but I didn't realize his run scheme was really good. You know, like you look at the stats, again, the stats show obviously it must be, but when you really, really watch it, and there's times when you're watching the games live and you see them pop off a great run play, but when you really watch them down and down out, you're like, man, this is good stuff. Now, I don't think the bag is as deep as a Matt LaFleur or a Ben Johnson per se, but what I respect about what I've noticed, at least the games I've watched, is that Liam knows what he's good at or what they're good at, and we're going to run it and run it from different looking formations. But we're going to do similar things and put our guys in successful situations. Bucky Irvin, I believe it's Sean Tucker and Rachaad White. They are showing the Cowboys how to run a running back by committee. Not everybody can do it, but they have 3 running backs who have 40 or more touches. And all 3 of those guys are averaging like over 4.5 yards. Bucky Irvin's averaging a ridiculous 5.6 yards per carry, something like that. Sean Tucker's averaging over 6 yards per carry. All of their guys are averaging over 4+ yards per carry on the season. It's really impressive, man. Really impressive. Obviously, shouts out to the offensive line, especially in the pass department. They got 2 tackles that are tough to get around. And I talked about this on Twitter. Tristan Wirfs versus Micah Parsons, whenever that happens, is must-see TV. But on the other side, that right tackle is also pretty damn good and tough to get around too. So I wonder if Zim is going to attack the middle of this defense when it comes to the pass game. But when it comes to the run game, you know, they do some of that motion stuff as well. I mean, let's take a look real quick at just a couple of these plays from last week where, I talk about how, Zach Robinson does a lot of stuff with his tight ends and wide receivers that have moved blockers, right? Creating extra gaps or just using them as diversions pre-snap or at the snap. Again, we talk about how they like to use these tight ends and use these receivers to get an ID on what the defense is doing, but they're not doing it for play like that. When you see that type of motion, and I'll play it at full speed so you can see just this isn't something where these guys are just half-assing it across the field. That looks like we're about to snap the ball. So when that happens, look what happens with this safety. He's biting up, right? This safety is he's gonna bite up a little bit because it looks like we're about to snap this rock where he starts back here. So let's let the play run a little bit longer and show you exactly what this motion does when they actually do the motion. Now the safety done gave it away. I'm already in the box. We know what we're dealing with from a number standpoint. So now we're going to actually run it, and look what happens with this defense right here. Look at these guys. All these guys are shifting. All these guys are shifting. Take a look at them one more time. Bump, bump, bump. And that's going to create the leverage that you need in the run game, right? Now I can get up and I have this extra space, right? He's going to get out here, this extra space to make something happen. And when I think this is Derwin James, when he peeks in just a little bit right there, it's that you would think, all right, this is Derwin James. He can get Bucky Irvin right here. But that extra step takes him out the play. And Jalen McMillan, I believe this is who it is, does a great job recognizing that, right? Like McMillan looks like he's about to block down on Derwin James, but I wonder if this is coached in that meeting room where if Derwin James steps too far in, then McMillan, you get out here. You get out here and create that extra blocker in space and let Bucky Irvin just flat out outrun the angle because you're not going to catch me in Derwin James. And that's exactly what happens. And we get a good big play. McMillan gets a good enough block, and we get an extra, 7 yards because of that block, man. So it's just little things like that in the run game that work for the Bucs. And then they can do this too. They can do some, okay, we got some motion for you. We'll do some diversion. We'll snap stuff. We'll just flat out play smash mouth football, right? We'll pull the guard, I believe, here. We'll get the fullback here. We'll create an alley, and we'll get a huge play by Bucky Irvin, who also makes a guy miss. So here's the pull. There's the fullback filling the gap. We get a seal here, a seal here, down the alley. Now I get one-on-one, right here. I've got to make a guy miss, and Bucky Irvin does that, and we're off to the races for a 30-plus yard gain. And these are just 2 plays, and neither play is really that crazy. I could have showed you some really cool run plays that the Buccaneers do, but really no need. Because you're not going to see the kind of cool, fun stuff down in, down out. You're going to see that type of stuff on the ground, down in, down out. And one thing the Cowboys have kind of struggled with over the years is dealing with at-snap motion, pre-snap stuff. And they've gotten a little bit better with it over the weeks, though. And that kind of leads me into Mike Zimmer, right? Who has been able to kind of thwart a lot of these offenses over the last few weeks. Now, when I say thwart, I mean that didn't happen per se against the Cincinnati Bengals. They threw for almost damn near 400 yards on you, and oh boy went off for like $177. They didn't run the ball particularly well. They're not a running team. They can care less about it. The Bucs run the ball, or I'm sorry, the Panthers run the ball well. You shut that down, but they don't throw the ball well. Then the Giants are just horrendous in general. Again, which is why I think this matchup is tough. This matchup is the test over the weeks, and if they can shut this Bucs offense down, well, brother, we're talking. I don't think we're having a different conversation, but we're making the conversation a little bit louder for a Mike Zimmer. For the first few weeks of this season, maybe month of the season, we kept talking about, hey man, we're just not getting into what Mike Zimmer wants to do. Like, what makes Zimmer's scheme really good is what happens on third downs or what happens on obvious passing downs. The Cowboys couldn't get into it, whether it be because they were getting ran down or they couldn't stop the pass early on and down. So you really couldn't see what makes Zimmer's scheme really good. Then that started to happen, right? Lately, you're starting to see them be better on early downs, which leads to Mike Zimmer being able to get into some of those things. So they asked Mike about some of that. They said, hey, what is the difference? Obviously, getting some guys back, but what's different in why you're having success? And this is what Mike Zimmer had to say.
Well, we've had to change some things based on who we have in there, and I think the players have done a good job of understanding what, going into the game, what we need to do in order to win this particular ball game. Like I said, for us, our third downs have been really good, and the sacks have been good, and so all those things combined, was taking care of some of the early down stuff that we had to take care of to get them in those situations. And I think for the last month or 5 weeks or so, we've done a good job of getting them into those situations where we can use some of the pressures and some of the different configurations of the defense to affect them.
Indeed, Coach. Indeed. It, as a Zimmer advocate, right? It was tough, seeing that we couldn't get into those things. And obviously we knew they didn't really help him out by bringing in defensive tackles that you needed for this scheme. But it was frustrating to watch. And to his point, or to his credit, he admitted, yeah, man, I didn't adjust well early on. And when I say to his credit, admitting it, he talked about that earlier in the season. So it was frustrating. But we also talked about how, hey, there needs to be a longer leash here. Is his first year in this defense. Now, not now, but then suffering the injuries and things like that. Now you're starting to see these guys understanding it a little bit better And even to an extent where you'll hear this here in a second, these guys were trying not to mess up, specifically the defensive line. And it was kind of holding them back a little bit. So they asked Coach Zim about Osa, who was playing very well. And he said something in there in his praise of Osa Odighizuwa that really stood out to me and just makes me like Zim even more. I'll let you listen to it first and then we'll talk about it.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, I think for all of our defensive linemen, they were kind of like, they didn't want to get out of their where they're supposed to be in relationship to where the defense was. And I think probably 5 weeks ago, 6 maybe, I don't know what it was, but I said, we got to get these guys attacking a little bit more than what they're doing. And we changed a couple of alignments for some of the guys. And I think it's allowed him to be a little bit more, get off the ball quick, use your hands, but he's done a nice job of feeling how the offensive lineman sets him. The play where he caused the fumble the first play of the second half, the guy kind of overset him and he threw him by and, got to the quarterback and did a nice job stripping the ball. So he continues to do a good job there. And I think the other thing too, we obviously know that a lot of protection is going to Micah, and the more that he can get the one-on-ones away, because Micah's going to get chipped and get all those combinations over there anyway. So the more that we can get them on the opposite sides where he can get a one-on-one, and if they go the other way, then Micah gets a one-on-one.
It may seem trivial, right? But listen to him earlier in the year, realize I adapted wrong, and then saying now, okay, this is how we adapted, right? He came out and said, hey man, this defensive line was playing timid. They were playing to not make a mistake. And that's on me, because obviously, he's pounding it home here that, hey guys, you have to do X, Y, Z. You have to be in this gap. You can't lose this containment. You can't X, Y. But he realized, all right, let's loosen up a bit here. Let's get some of these guys who are better attacking Osa Odighizuwa. Let's get them in these situations where they can perform better. And it's worked for an Osa. Now getting a Micah back helps too, but remember, this was happening. The negative things were happening when Micah was there. While these guys were trying to not mess up and make a mistake, it kind of thwarted that pass rush. Remember, for a long time with Micah in and with Micah out, we're like, man, this pass rush. They couldn't do anything up front. It was all blitzes, right? It had to blitz a bunch and create pressure. And he said, about 5-6 weeks ago, we had to really tweak what we've done up front with these guys and kind of allow them to get going a little bit better via whether it's the alignments, the get off, whatever. And it's worked. The Cowboys are number 1 in pressure percentage. They're top 5 in quarterback knockdowns, hurries, sacks, all of that. The numbers are going up. And you can say, well, Sky, the offenses are playing, et cetera. And that's fair. But even before the last 3 weeks, you started to see that uptick, right? They were pressuring the hell out of a Philadelphia Eagles team whose offensive line is one of the best, right? We talked about the Panthers. While that's not a good team, that's a really good O-line. So this week, another similar situation going up against a good offensive line and a good offense. I'm going to be curious to see how Mike Zimmer decides to attack these guys. How often he moves around a Micah Parsons. This dude over here in Tristan Wirth, when I say over here, I'm pointing to my left. The left is the left tackle. Like, look, selfishly, I'd like to see the matchup just because I want to see two really damn good dudes, two of the best at their position right now, go at it. But as a Cowboy fan, find a scrub, man. Don't play around over there too much. Tristan Wirfs, I believe he's only given up like 9 pressures this year. He only has 2 games where he's allowed more than 1 pressure. 0 sacks. So I get it. Micah's Micah. Micah could beat anybody in the league, in my opinion. But that doesn't mean I want to see him just banging his head against the wall against that guy. I like to see him attack the middle. Cody Mauch, I believe, is in the middle. If you follow the draft, shouts out to Foots if he's in here. We talked about him a lot during the draft season. I want to say they signed, I forget who it was. They signed somebody up there as well. But so they got a good offensive line. But the interior is really where I think I'd like to see them attack the Bucks with Micah Parsons and some of these blitzes. Get our Notre Dame kid Leah Fowl downhill a little bit more too. Blitz some of these safeties and DBs a little bit more, which again, that's another thing that Zim has done from an adjustment standpoint. This is why, you have to like what he's doing more and more as the season goes on. Adjustment, right? We're talking about adjustment. Earlier in the season was way too much soft tendencies from the DBs and the safeties. And I just thought it put the safeties in position to where they weren't playing their best ball, right? They were playing terrible. They were awful. Point blank, period. But quietly, with a small tweak, these safeties are playing a lot better football. And it's about putting these dudes in position to where they fit. And that's something that Zim's scheme runs a certain way. You could argue he doesn't have his guys that he exactly wants back there, but this is who you have. So now you have to figure out how to make it work within your scheme. So what we've done, right? We've taken Dono, instead of playing so much on the roof, we've got him kind of roving a bit now. Now we're blitzing him a bit, right? And we're blitzing him a lot more than last year. If you guys remember coming into the season, I talked about, one of the things I think we'll see more of with Donovan Wilson and Mike Zimmer is blitzing. We didn't for like a month and a half of the season. And I was actually taken back. I was shocked. I was wondering if Zimmer had looked at how Donovan Wilson was most successful as a missile and missed it because of what happened in 23. He wasn't blitzed a lot. He didn't get any sacks. He barely got any. I don't think got any knockdowns. They didn't use him as a blitzer like they did the previous season. They blitzed him a lot already. There are a lot more than last year already. 27 blitzes so far, 3 sacks, a couple knockdowns, all more than the previous season. Well, now by doing that, we can mix and match Wanye Thomas, Israel Mukuamu, more cover guys that if they have to drop back and drop zones, they're more comfortable in doing so across the field, as opposed to, hey, we're just going to put you on a half and you play the half, right? That's what Zim likes to usually do in his scheme. I thought these guys could have done that well, but early in the season that did not happen. So he tweaked it. It's helping out everybody, right? Malik Hooker is playing a little bit better. Of the guys who have 500 coverage snaps at safety, he's top 12 in quarterback rating. He's got 2 picks now, right? So these guys are playing better on the back end, but I think a lot of that has to do because they're able to get into these favorable situations on the front end. They're stopping the run better, and they're pressuring the quarterback better. They're sacking the quarterback more. And when you pressure the quarterback, you get him in errant throws, and you see a guy who's amazing in Joe Burrow because of pressure, make an errant throw, and boom, interception, Malik Hooker. I think that can continue to happen. A little bit tougher this week because you have a scheme that is prolific, and then you have these guys executing it at a prolific level, both in run and pass. So that's why I think this matchup is going to be really fun to watch. Really fun to watch. And if he does it, if he shuts this Bucs offense down, or at the very least, I don't want to say similar game to the Bengals because they really threw the ball over the field on you. They just couldn't punch it in until they had to. But if he has a respectable game, like I said at the start of this, the noise should grow louder for his return. Right? It should grow louder for a multitude of different reasons. What he's been able to do with this defense that has been hurt all season, the adversity it's faced, and how well they're playing. Again, opponents, I get it, 100%. But you had to expect there would be some getting used to, and I think a lot of these guys are getting used to it. Now, I do know behind the scenes there are some guys who just, it took a while, and maybe they still aren't completely, I don't want to use the word bought in, but completely okay with some things in regards to how drastically different things are from the previous years. But I don't really care. As long as when you get on the field, you're doing your job and you're performing well. And that's what's happening right now. These guys are playing a lot better on a string together from the front end to the back end, and you're seeing a better defense. Tough task this week, though. Tough task this week with the Buccaneers. I think I don't even call it a debate. I think the conversation should end if he goes out there and has a good game. He, as in Mike Zimmer, against this team on Sunday Night Football of returning. Now, I am still on the side of if the new head coach, if there is one, because we know it's probably not, if they want Mike Zimmer to return, awesome. If not, you just have to deal with that because I want the head coach to be able to coach this team the way he needs to. But as we talked about earlier in the year, feels like this is a run it back situation where Mike McCarthy comes back. And if Mike comes back, Mike Zimmer's coming back. If Mike McCarthy comes back, Mike Solari's probably coming back unless he retires. He could retire. There's something there too. But just talking defensively, I'm A-okay with Zim returning and with all this guys. A-okay. Year 2 in this scheme, hopefully healthy, added more players, free agency, draft. Could be even better. Could be what, the question was asked before. Hey, could this be a defense that can carry you when your offense isn't playing up to par in the postseason? Healthy, added more talent, second year in this scheme, I think so. I didn't think this many injuries would happen. Right? A lot of injuries this year. I didn't see that happening. But also didn't think the Cowboys defense would play as bad as they did the first 3-4 weeks of the season all year. I didn't think that would happen either. I just happened to look over here. What's going on? Acknowledge Rodgers' return. What are we talking about? Appreciate you. What? Appreciate you. Oh, shouts out to a Bucks fan in the building. Mr. Aaron Grant. Did I break down your Bucks pretty good here, brother? I'm not sure if you stuck around for a while, but I like when opposing fans come through. Did I break down your Bucks pretty good here? Very smart, Oscar. Very smart. Or if he didn't flat out take him out, Oscar said taking out Dono on the obvious passing downs in replace of Wanya and Izzy was smart. It doesn't happen all the time, but one thing he's also done is when he is in the game, again, he's playing more of a rover. He's around the box. He's in the middle of the field. When I say middle of the field, I mean second level of the field, as opposed to the deep end of the field. And when these guys are playing some zone, there's like a zone blitz to it, and it's Dono blitzing, right? So I definitely think that's something to be to take note of. Oh, Rodgers, Justin Rodgers. I'm like, Rodgers with a D? Who was that? So Justin Rodgers has been signed back to the practice squad. Shouts out to the young man coming back. Was over in Cincinnati, right? Cowboys 7th round pick. But he's back with the Cowboys. There, you happy? It's not major news at all, Professor. But AG, he's adamant. Oh, yeah. Stone Cold, you're right. Eagle fans, there's a very small few of those people who come in here and can do this thing. The rest of them can go over there with the coloring book for sure. But yeah, Aaron, hopefully I broke down your Bucks pretty well. I was trying to get the homegirl back on here. If you guys remember Brianna Dix, she used to be one of my go-tos at D210 Sports. I think this was even before I came to A to Z. She might have did a few hits on A to Z, but when I was doing my own thing. And she moved on to the Bucks to go cover the Bucks. She did a radio hit yesterday on 105.3. Maybe I can probably get her tomorrow. We'll see. But she does a fantastic job covering the Buccaneers as well. Active roster, I'm sorry. He's signed to the active roster, not the practice squad. So maybe we'll see Justin Rodgers this week where the Cowboys could use some defensive tackle help here. Appreciate that. He said, Mr. Grant said, yes, sir, you did. Sneaky team we are, but I'm impressed by Tampa's adversity and physicality of late. Bucks still win, though. Three-headed monster at running back. Talked about that three-headed monster led by this guy right here, Bucky Irvin. I think I said this the other day in regards to the Bucks. You said sneaky team. One of the shows I do watch on the big networks in the morning as I'm getting ready. Pose the question, are the Buccaneers a sneaky Super Bowl contender? And all three of the panelists said, yeah. And I'm listening and I'm like, man, they kind of are. Because we talked about how they beat Philly this year and last year. They beat the Detroit Lions this year. They have a run game that carries. They can throw the ball around. And their defense, while I don't think it's the elite of elite defenses, we'll talk about it tomorrow, they can be a streaky defense, right? And we know that Todd Bowles is one of the most respected defensive minds in the league. I do think they're a sneaky team to come out of the NFC this year. Favorites, no, but they're sneaky, very sneaky. Buccaneers crazy. Tex Rob, we're going to talk about that tomorrow, but interesting here, brother. I think it's over for the guy, but Tex Rob said, with the O-line playing better, I like to see Deuce get some playing time. Looks like there are some holes now. I feel like it's over for Deuce here. Maybe somewhere else, because I still feel like Deuce Vaughn is yes, while he can run like a regular running back, I do think he's a space player too. I talked about him being a satellite guy, and we just do not have an offense that utilizes players in space. Like, that's just not what we do. I think Deuce on the Bucks with Liam Cohen would have a lot more success than here, even with the offensive line. I use the quotations, and they are playing well. Let me not do that. They're playing well, but you're not playing against some really good run defenses. Even with that, all that considered, I don't think Deuce would be that productive. Better than previously, but I don't think we have a scheme that's suitable for him, in my opinion. Shouts out to Matt, who dropped 5.
Super chat.
Matt said, happy to hear about Overshown. I hope he waits until 2026. That's a year and a half of rehab. Yes. Selfishly, as a fan, you want to see him back out there, but then you have to think just take the human aspect, put that hat on. 2 ACL injuries plus MCL, PCL. They're talking mid to late. If it's mid, late, or late, just take the whole year, man. Just take the whole year, and hopefully in 26, it'll be better for him. But I said this before when it happened. I'm going into next year, and he doesn't factor into what I'm doing draft-wise at the position or free agency-wise at the position. I've got to attack this position knowing he may not be back until 26. And even if he is, my bro Lee hit me up, was like, we got to understand, now that's his contract year. And Cowboys go into that cycle. They go into that cycle. If Deuce Vaughn didn't get the high five by McCarthy, he ain't getting on the field. Yeah, they finna just run with Rico and Zeke for the rest of the year. Yeah. Stone Cold said, I was thinking we could get 2 DTs in the draft / UDFAs. Well, UDFAs, they'll definitely bring in an extra. I think they definitely should draft one for sure. Do you think getting Rodgers back affects those plans? We probably just get one now, right? I hope not, Stone Cold G. I hope not. We talk about this a lot. And I'm not calling out the viewer who said this the other day. Hey, man, we need to see more Jalen Brooks because he caught a touchdown pass. He needs more opportunity. He's this. Slow down. Let's not let a touchdown pass lollipop throw, and it was a great catch, blind you from the fact we need better weapons. All right? Let's not let that they brought back a guy in Justin Rogers, who was a 7th round pick. I thought didn't deserve to not be cut. Blind us from the fact that you're likely going into the offseason with one defensive tackle that has played a lot, unless they re-signed an Osa Digizu or whatever. I don't want Justin Rogers to stop the Cowboys from attacking that position aggressively. Not at all. I'm not saying this to disrespect or slight the young man, but right now he has to be viewed as just another guy, just another body in that room that needs as many guys to throw at the wall as possible right now, right? So I hope not, Stone Cold G. Please don't allow Justin Rogers re-signing to the active roster say, you know what? We don't need to take a defensive tackle in this draft. I think they do. I absolutely think they do. Honestly, I wouldn't even let Mozzie's progress, and there has been progress there. Has he been amazing? No, but I wouldn't let that stop me. Dalvin Cook was a headliner grab, huh? I mean, they tried. They tried with Dalvin Cook. It happened so fast. I don't think a lot of people have really said this, and I can't remember who was here. Maybe it was Two-Eyed. I mentioned this, but he wasn't good. He was not good. So I'm not tripping that Dalvin Cook, isn't getting back in there. Now you can again say, well, neither was offensive line, run game, whatever. That's fine, But I saw Rico Dowdle with that same situation make the most out of it, and I thought Cook looked a little cooked. Oh boy, T-Dub. T-Dub said, I have to admit I was wrong about Saquon, Jacobs, and Henry. I thought those guys were spent. I still think the Joneses would have been a better fit. I still think Jones would have been a better fit in our offensive scheme. Man, I often thought that was a weird thought for some of these guys. Like Saquon and Jacobs were like 26 years old. We're talking about an over the hill 30-year-old guy and are extremely talented and skilled. Stuck on franchises that sucked, right? Like, I don't know. Maybe you thought this, but I don't think most people believe that Saquon doesn't have elite skills. When he signed with the Eagles, what did we say? Oh, he's about to have a great year. He's playing behind a great offensive line with weapons. He's about to go off as long as he stays healthy. And look what's happening. Jacobs was just the leading rusher, and before that has had a great career in Las Vegas, but a bad team. Henry's the one where if you wanted to argue 30 years old, too many, this and that, I wouldn't fight you on it, but it's still at the end of the day, it's Derrick Henry. All three of those guys showed that they still are really good backs, in my opinion. They just were stuck on terrible teams. But I often thought that was hearing about it during free agency. And if you want to get mad at the money, that's whatever. But the actual talent, when I watch those guys, I'm like, I don't know why people are saying these guys are done. I'm talking about a 26-year-old running backs who are supremely talented players now going to better opportunities. Sheesh. Well, Cowboys did the same thing here, but but yeah, those guys are good players, man. So we can't sign Jeffrey Simmons. Ask T-Dub. Didn't Jeffrey Simmons just get a bag? Am I tripping? Yeah, even Joe Mixon traded to the Texans, playing well too. But again, another guy, if you watch him, like, what are we watching that shows that this dude doesn't have it? You know what I mean? These guys are really good players, man. Really good players. Would have been nice to have one of them. I'm just saying. Tony said the line didn't help Cook and the scheme isn't good. The competition was weak. Fools go. I do think there was something to that, right? Like, totally different competition now than previously. But like I said with Rico Dowdle, if I'm going to do it on a positive side where I say, hey, using that, yes, the competition is not great. I'm just looking at how he's running and what he's doing. And in the how and he was running is much better than anybody the Cowboys had in the backfield. Even when the Cowboys were playing those same teams that Cooks was struggling with, or whomever else, Zeke, whomever was struggling with, I think Rico was clearly shown that, he's the best back on this team. Clearly. Trick said Mixon is washed. Didn't Mixon? I mean, I don't know what he's doing the last few weeks, but wasn't Mixon leading the league in yards per game and like touchdowns and stuff? Take a look what Mixon's on. Didn't Mixon have like a $150 on us or something? Mixon was looking great earlier in the year. I'm not really. Let's see what's going on here. Yeah. Oh, yeah, the 109 on the Cowboys. I don't know bro. My boy, he got 200-yard games. He got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 100-yard games. 11 touchdowns. What are you talking about, bro? I mean, I thought maybe after the Cowboys game, Mixon ain't been doing nothing, but I mean, he about to hit a stack, averaging over 4 per carry. 600. He about to have more 600. He about to have more rush yards after contact than our backups combined. He looking like he's playing well. When I was studying him going into the Texans game, I didn't see no wash back at all. I even talked about this. When people were trying to compare Jones and Mixon and who was it? Barkley and Henry and Jacobs to our veteran guy, I'm like, y'all, just go look at how they're moving. It's night and day. It's night and day in how these guys are moving. And Mixon was one of those guys. So I don't know, bro. He just don't look washed to me. Yeah, Cam, we'll talk about that a whole lot this offseason. Cam said I'll bring him back as a backup. We're going to see what happens, man. Yeah, J.K. Dobbins. What's J.K. doing? Let me take a look at it. Because J.K. Dobbins was like the perfect candidate of Catboy criteria we talked about. And he came out the gate screaming. He's still been good. J.K. still been good. Average over 4.8 yard or 4.8 per carry. I mean, this is J.K. Dobbins since week 6. 96, 40, 57, 85, 50, 56, 40. Mind you, these are all games where he's only had like 14, 15, 11 attempts. So it's not like they're trying to run him into the ground. In fact, he's only got one game over 17 attempts. 8 touchdowns rushing. And then, obviously he's also a good receiver out the backfield. What's he got going on? 134 yards. So nothing crazy out the backfield, but JK might be getting another op next year. Probably. He can't stay. He probably is out for the year. He hasn't played since week 12, I believe. Let me see here. And that's usually his problem, right? Like he can't stay healthy. That's his issue. And again, he'll probably come back, get a 1-year deal with somebody, show that he can do this, and I hate to say it, probably get injured again. But that was the whole issue with J.K. Dobbins in free agency. All right, Cowboys Nation, that's about it, man. I wanted to talk to y'all a little bit in the chat and review this Bucs offense. Who, this is the heavyweight matchup tomorrow. Though we'll break down this Cowboys. Honestly, we're probably more so going to cover what the Bucs do defensively than what the Cowboys can do offensively. Because let's be completely honest here, they're limited right now, and they have to lean on the ground game. They have to. Like this has to be another one of those situations where the Cowboys build off of the ground and hope the Bucs play some man defense, and you get CeeDee Lamb, maybe get him the ball quickly. I've given up on anything downfield. Lollipop arm ain't happening. Now you get in the red zone, the field's shortened. Now we can kind of throw it up a little bit, but they're going to have to matriculate this ball downfield, play some keep away. This is the same game plan we talked about with the Cincinnati Bengals. Pretty much the same game plan. So we'll look at it all tomorrow, Cowboys Nation. Do me a favor, though. Hit that like button if you enjoyed the breakdown. Let me just go make sure I didn't miss any supers from anybody. I know our guy Matt Lennox dropped one. Appreciate you, Matt. Yep, we good to go. I got to go design some do-rag. That'd be pretty dope. Share this if you will. Mr. Grant, or I guess this week's guest of honor, one of, from our opposing team, if you will, share this to your Buccaneers family. Let them know, hey man, come over here if they want to get some quality breakdowns on the upcoming game. Please, sir. Please, sir. Cash App, Mr. Reed. Let me drop that in there for you right here. Cash App is ChillWill1026. I used to have it in the description. I have it on the other channel, which again, put a pin. But that's the Cash App, sir. Appreciate you. take any donations. Well, I appreciate that a whole lot. But tomorrow we're back. Like I said, I'll try to get Brianna. Matter of fact, Mr. Grant and any other Bucks fan in here, how's our girl Brianna Dix doing over there? I think she covered our team fantastically. I'll see if I can get her on the show or maybe another Buccaneers beat reporter to give us some more insight on this here said team. If not, you know me, I'll dig and do my research like I always do and try to present the best possible breakdown that we can. Let me press this button now, man.
Push the goddamn button.
I got you. I got you. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Jeremy. Let me tell you this right now. You hit the Cash App. Don't be coming over there requesting. Appreciate you, Jeremy. We out of here, man. Love y'all. Peace. Enjoy y'all Thirsty Thursday. That's not what I said, Stone Cold. Right?
What?
Let me hold 5, nephew. Hey, if y'all didn't hear the story, I gotta get Voch back on so we can tell the story of the old head down at the AAC asking for some money. That was crazy. Y'all look like y'all got money. Excuse me, sir. We out of here, man.
Bomb Squad!